Today on The Dead Life, I'm very excited to welcome my daughter Sophia DuBois to the show. She'll be joining me once a month to take call-in questions from my listeners. Sophia grew up while my show Medium was on. As she got older, she helped me at my events by passing the microphone to my audience members. She learned to read people's energy and found out that she's quite a strong empath. Love Me Not is a new segment on The Dead Life dealing with relationships. I'll tap into the energy of your partner or child to see what's going on inside of their head to help you to navigate your relationship with a little help from Sophia. If you want to call in with a relationship question, you can remain anonymous, or you have a question about the afterlife that might be shared on a future episode of The Dead Life, leave your message at 802-DEAD-811. That's 802-332-3811. You can follow me on Instagram at Medium Allison, on my Facebook fan page, and you can binge on my YouTube videos to watch readings, including episodes of The Dead Life. If you have abilities of your own and are looking to expand them and connect with other gifted people, go to deaduniversity.com. Well, Sophia, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So exciting having you here. And for the people out there that haven't heard you on the show before, I think you've been on a time or two already.
Yes.
Why don't we talk a little bit about your experience growing up? So you were around people that were grieving your whole life. So what was that like?
I mean, I'll say the first question that every person asks me when they find out you're a medium is, what is it like having a mother that's a medium? And I don't know how to answer that.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, but that's all I know. You know, that's all I know. So
you're like, how does it feel having a mother that's a realtor?
No, it's seriously, but I'm just used to it. And I think that's the big difference. No, I was around it. I didn't go to events until a little later because I was so young.
Yeah.
But then the last few years of you touring and doing events, I came with you and I would help pick the people in the audience that you would read. So I definitely do have a strong just sense and feeling towards people when I think they really need it. So I think that helped, especially since we're related.
Yes.
And I think I know you better than most. So,
and it's kind of funny because I love your dad, but when people pick people in the audience at events, and I found this with my cousin Mark, who used to be my tour manager as well, they vibe with people that have similar energy to their own. Mm-hmm. Your dad's an academic, so he was vibing with people who don't communicate very well. And one day I was like, Sophia, you pick the people in the audience, and I handed you the microphone. And after that, that just became your regular job at my events.
Yeah,
you're very good at it.
I was already doing the photos, the VIP photos. So, yeah. I mean, I will say there are hit or miss moments still.
Yeah.
For the most part, good. But there would be some where I must have been picking up on someone next to them or something. And yeah, we had to tell them, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, I remember that happening a couple of times because I'd be drawn to someone else. And so in events, if you picked someone or dad picked someone and I wasn't feeling it, I'd say, no, I want to read the person next to her.
Which
I'd go to that person.
I always felt so bad about because I would give the one person the microphone and they're like, it's my shot. I was chosen. And then you just changed it. So I'm like, I'm so sorry.
It's funny because sometimes I'd feel badly about that. And I'd go back to that person just to give them sort of a mini reading. And then you'd find out why I skipped them in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are interesting. And some people communicate better during live events than others. And so that's why we started clipping a microphone to them, because we'd hand them the microphone. They would drop it immediately into their lap and be responding to my information in the reading, but nobody could hear them in the room. So events aren't as easy as they look. You have to coordinate it so that everybody's getting the experience of the reading and they're able to connect with that person and feel for them. And if they can't hear you, they can't do that.
Well, and I don't know. I did not do well with having that power because I would, I'm like, no one look at me. No one look at me. I would feel
so
too
nice.
bad. I would feel too bad for not getting to everyone, but you can't, you know? So
Yeah.
you just got to pick the people that need it.
Yeah.
But then there were some people waving their arms around trying to get, I'm like, I can see you.
Right.
Like now I don't want to choose you
Right.
because you're being too
pushy.
Yeah. To pick me.
Yeah.
You know,
I used to say to those people, if you do that, I'm not going to you, because it's really distracting when we're trying to pick up on the energy. And you've got a whole audience. It's like eggs in an egg carton where they're all close together and their energies can overlap. And you're trying to really concentrate, to zone in, to feel what I need to feel of who needs to be helped. And when there's somebody waving their arms violently off to the side, it can be a bit distracting. I'm sure that my listeners can understand what I'm saying there. But yeah, like 130 events later, I got to retire from doing that.
The phones going off, even though we tell them to turn them off.
The phones. And I always called people out. And Joe always said, if you don't turn your phone off, she's going to call you out. Because noise, just so people understand, and I tell this to my clients with phone readings, noise breaks my connection with the dead. And so when a phone goes off, especially like these repeated rings, it's very distracting and it breaks the connection. And then I have to start over, which is why when Dad preps people for readings on the phone, he says, make sure there's not a baby in the room, no barking dogs. We try and remove the obvious noises that could be there, just so they get the best possible reading.
Well, he would even say in the beginning of the events, turn your phone off. And if you don't know how to do that, tell Sophia.
Right.
And she will come help you.
Your tech support.
I know, I was tech support.
You took all the pictures of the VIPs before the event started. So for the listeners out there that don't know, Sophia is actually a fabulous photographer.
Thank you.
So she would take the pictures of audience members and edit them so that their skin looked more flawless or their flaws were covered up. And some people out there would say, oh my gosh, how did the people feel about that? Well, they loved it.
Well, I only did it if they specifically asked for certain things as well.
And what did they always say?
Fix everything, make me look thinner. That is like the most.
Make me look thinner.
That's the biggest thing I hear as a photographer.
Make me 10 years younger. Make me look 10
I'm like,
years
okay,
younger.
guys, I'm not. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
And then you also had you vetted people for buried emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I had to do the casting for that, and there were hundreds of submissions that came in each day, and then have it was weird having to narrow it down to the people that deserved it the most, because everyone deserved it, and they were all horrific, losses. And that was specifically what we wanted. And so it was a weird day when I'd have to say, oh, this murder tops that murder. Like, no, they're both horrible.
The impossible decision.
It seriously is. And then for a bit, I kind of became desensitized to hearing about death stories, where I'm just like, okay, well, which one like has a better backstory, right? Which one, who can communicate better, who wants to open up, who is like willing to give information or like confirm information with you,
who's emotionally available.
Because some of them happened only 3 months prior, and I'm like, you're not ready for it yet. Reapply when it's been at least 6 months, but first like a loss of son to like a murder. Yeah, maybe wait a little longer for that one.
They're still raw, so the reading doesn't tend to help them when it's that early on in the grieving process. They have to have been able to go through the 5 stages of grieving. I believe there are 6, but you don't get to the 6th so soon, usually not with a loss of child, which I believe is the hardest loss
definitely
to endure. I still have trouble. I guess not trouble. It affects me greatly when I do readings and I'm bringing daughters through, because I have 3 daughters, as you are one of.
Yes.
And it's personal. It feels personal. And I always end up going over on their readings. And Dad's like, you got to stop going over on the readings so much.
I've had some where they're my age. Yeah, like it was a 24-year-old daughter and they were best friends. And yeah, that it does hit you really hard, which I get. Yeah, I get why that's tough.
And yeah, I know what you're talking about, becoming desensitized, because I worked a lot of murders in over 20 years, and people will say to me, which ones stand out to you? I'm like, well, they were all important. They all mattered. But there are ones that are just so incredibly evil, and the perpetrator, their signature was just uniquely evil, that it'll stand out above some of the more, what we would call classic murders, something that's more typically seen. So I get it, becoming desensitized to it. When you hear about it all the time, it becomes your business.
Well, do you remember the one where you brought her son through for Buried Emotions?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was like, after it was posted, every day for like 5 days straight, I woke up at 3 a.m. and I did not know why. And then I was like, well, maybe but I would always be thinking about him, right? So I was like, maybe he's trying to tell me something. I think he died at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I was so annoyed after the 5th minute that I swear to God, I sat up in bed. I was talking to basically my hallway, and I said, if it's you, I see you, I hear you, I get you, whatever it is you want, like, tell me. Are you saying thank you? You're welcome. And so after that, I didn't wake up at 3 a.m. So I'm like, maybe he needed validation from me or something. But that was a strong one.
It was also a young man, and you're a young lady. So sometimes they'll get a little attached to you, that you tried to help them, and they feel that you understand their mom. Mm-hmm. In that scenario. He probably did want to thank you for helping his mother, but also sometimes they're not done. They want to keep talking to him, and they'll keep coming back. But that's why it's up to the living. And those are the borders and boundaries I speak of to my students that you have to have. But you did great. You did exactly the right thing. So I'm very proud of you.
I know it was him too, because, well, you have to kind of study each person that I had to vet. I knew everything about him. I had so many photos of him. Talked to his mom.
You know him.
Yeah, talked to his mom multiple times. Talked to other people that knew him multiple times.
I liked her
a lot too. Yeah. And yeah, so he was probably like, wait, I want to stick around a little bit.
She can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, not at 3 a.m, please.
No, but you did the right thing, and then he went away and left you alone. So that's how it works, and that's why you have to address them. What do you want to tell me? Mm-hmm. If you just keep getting scared and throwing blankets over your head, they keep coming back, and people wonder why. You ask them what they need.
Well, you know what? It happened so many times. I wasn't even scared at that point. You're right. I was just annoyed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, right. No blankets over my head.
Well, you grew up around it. So I think it was a little scary too, because you knew who he was and you knew his mom.
Very true.
Yeah.
Because it scared me so much growing up. Yeah. I was like, I don't want them to come in my bedroom. Yeah. I don't want them opening my doors.
I love the video when you had a little friend spending the night. I think it was Casey. Yeah. And you're videotaping, skits or whatever.
It was a dance routine.
We're doing a dance routine. And the bathroom door just like shut itself. And hear a scream. You guys came down the stairs screaming, and I went up and I talked to the girl that was in there. She went away. She came back from time to time, but she just died in the area. That's all. And you could hear her. So she was trying to talk to you. You're probably going to get a lot of that through your life, because you do have this, for my friends out there that follow astrology, Sophia's a sun in Cancer, moon in Pisces. So she has all this water and this emotional availability that they feel drawn to her because she has nurturing energy. So you're going to get a lot of that throughout life.
You know what? Yep. It's not even just the dead.
Right.
It's just everything. Everyone living, and people will just be drawn to me. And then they will just trauma dump their whole life. They will trauma dump. And I'm like, okay, let's have a session. Let's talk about it. What are your solutions?
And I've said this to people before. There are some people that even when you were a child, people gravitate to you and they tell you their life story. And they don't know why, and you don't know why. And there's something in your energy that's supposed to help heal people. And a lot of the people who have this experience grow up to become a counselor or a psychologist or a grief counselor, so somebody who helps others to heal. And I was that kid too. I was that person. And so I can relate to that. But that's another reason I wanted to have you on the show, because people come to you with relationship questions constantly, which is something I do in life readings. And I just thought we could help people together. So
absolutely. No, I love this idea. You're right. People always come to me for relationship advice. I think you just need to paint a picture for people to understand it and comprehend it more.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, rose-colored glasses are a thing. Okay? Been there, done that. And I've learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, from personal experience, I'm going to get you through this.
Yeah.
Let's figure it out.
So it's nice to have you as a sounding board as well, and to give your 2 cents, because what I do is I tap into the energy of the husband or the boyfriend, your daughter, whoever it is that they're having an issue with, and I can pull their energy apart and sort of sort it out and explain to you where they're at now on their path and emotionally, mentally, where they're at, so that you can have a plan moving forward. I do get a lot of clients with questions about affairs, I have to say. So that's why I say people can call out in anonymously. They don't have to give a real name, but I will end up needing the first name of the person, but we can edit that out if you'd like to. So we'll be very careful with people's information. I just want to make sure that those who don't maybe get a personal reading with me and just have a quick relationship question have a way to reach me and that we can help them. So love me not is our segment.
Yeah. And as much as, I say, oh, everyone comes to me, and, you might find it like, I don't at all. I enjoy it. I find it entertaining. I like hearing about other people's relationships. And it's like a little gossip sesh. Yeah. What's said on here stays here. Okay. So right. we'll do our best.
Well, and a lot of my listeners are sensitives, and they like to it's like tap into the energy of the person that's calling's voice and see what you pick up, see what energy you draw from it. How does it make you feel? I like people to be able to practice and exercise their abilities through this show, just seeing what they pick up on their own. And I think they'll be surprised at how good they get at it. So practice is everything when it comes to strengthening the muscle of medium or of, psychic nature. So why don't we go ahead and start with our first call-in and dip our toe in? Okay.
Hi, Allison. I'm Ruth from New York. Thank you for your show, and thank you for taking my call. My eldest daughter passed away 5.5 years ago at the age of 14. Her death was completely unexpected, and it was self-inflicted. Within the first couple of days after her passing, I started to realize that she was trying to communicate with me. So prior to her death, I had no real understanding or opinion about anything related to the afterlife. So it took me a while to fully accept what was happening. But she was loud, and she was doing everything possible to get through to us. She was moving coins, balloons, messing with the lights and the TV, sending tons of signs, showing up in my dreams with very clear messages. And a few times she even woke me from my sleep by touching me physically. One time I felt a poke in the cheek. Another time I felt a kiss on the forehead, and it was strong enough feeling to startle me awake. So after a while, it was way too much for me to explain away, and I knew for a fact that it had to be her. But my question has to do with something that happened before she was born. When I was early in my third trimester of pregnancy with her, I got to meet her in a dream. I saw her clear as day at about 3 years old, and she really was the little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl that I had ended up giving birth to. I have 2 younger daughters as well, her little sisters, and did not have the same experience when I was pregnant with them. I've always wondered why I got the chance to meet my eldest prior to her birth. I thought maybe it had something to do with the fact that she was extremely sensitive, or that she came into this life knowing she would die young. I would really appreciate hearing any thoughts you have on that. Thank you so much. Wishing you peace and joy in the new year.
Okay, so that is a unique question that I don't get all the time. So I guess the best way I could sort of preface it is, dreams can be interpreted in different ways. So I wish they had more skilled dream interpreters out there. You just don't hear about them quite as often, or why certain people are the best or better than others, because it's all interpretation. But if her daughter died at 14 and she dreamt that she met her oldest daughter before birth, I would think that it would sort of signify that her daughter was here to teach her something. And that's why she was seeing her before she was born. Like, she's coming for a reason. Not that all kids aren't special to their mothers, but it was a statement. This is who's coming, and you'll find out why. Also, in situations like that, it does tend to mean, and I don't want to freak out anyone that's had this dream out there, because again, this is interpretation. Sometimes it means there's a short life, that because they don't usually show them ahead of time when it's when they're going to live to be 90. So usually they're here to make a mark in the world.
Well, you know that I'm a sucker for dream interpretations.
Yes, you are.
I can't tell you how many dreams I've had where I call you the next morning and I'm like, I have to tell you in full detail everything that happened. And then I do a deep dive on Google.
I know you
do.
do.
I know a lot. But what I think, it probably is that. But the first thing that I thought of was that they're like twin flames. And for people that don't know what that is, it just means like basically two peas in a pod. It's not like your soulmate, like a love interest, but it's like the person that should be there with you. Like they're meant to be in your life. Yes.
Sure.
And I think that they were just really, really close. And you're right. She was put there like in her life for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's so tragic that, her life was cut short.
14. She died at 14.
14. Like she didn't even live life.
No.
But I think that they're twin flames for sure.
She'll always be part of her.
Always.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. I wonder, and I'm sure Ruth has thought about this, what she was here to teach her.
Absolutely.
And maybe that hasn't even unfolded yet. Maybe it has yet to unfold. But there's a reason. And it also, without having that information of if her daughter died, was it suicide? Was it something that was more traumatic? It could be that Ruth's here to help other parents who lose kids in a traumatic way. Maybe Ruth's here to write a book about the healing process to help other people to heal. So when a child dies, and it's just so unnatural for them to, die before we do, to precede us in death, that you've got to learn something from it. We all, as parents, would need to find meaning in that death. And I think it's probably the deepest some people ever will go into their soul, trying to search for answers. And then other parents turn away from it and they try and sort of deaden the pain, mentally check out alcohol or medication because they can't deal with the level of pain. And I don't know that all people out there can possibly understand the depth of despair that a human being can feel until they've lost that person that was part of them. I think I heard a woman put it the best when she said, once you have a child, it's like a piece of your heart broke off and they're out there walking around the world and you worry about it all the time. And that resonated with me because I know I feel that way with you girls. We worry, we can't help it. And I remember when I was a kid saying to my mom and grandma, I'm like, well, just don't worry then. Like they could just stop. And if it had been put to me in these terms, maybe I'd understand it better. But it's as if a piece of your heart broke off and is out there walking around the world. And we just want to keep it safe.
I feel like you will never understand unless you are the parent.
Yeah. That's true.
And you go through that as well.
Yeah.
But she did mention that her daughter didn't show any signs of, depression or,
right.
Wanting to, cut her life short. Just, I wouldn't, A, blame yourself, B, think too much about it. And I know that's something that
the impossible ask.
That's impossible to ask. But it's sad, but there's nothing you can do that would change the outcome.
To undo it, right.
But just live your life for her.
She can change the outcome possibly for another.
Other people.
So
absolutely.
That is what I've found to be true. The only thing that heals a parent who's lost a child is when they're able to help others through their pain, grief, loss. That helps to rebuild them. Also, making the spiritual connection with their child, which is my 6th step of grief, reconnection. And so they have the 5 stages of grief. I've been through those when my dad died. I understand it. There is a 6th stage I added to mine. I believe the reconnection that you have after somebody died is truly what brings you peace of mind and peace in your soul. And it's the most powerful thing I think I've seen is reconnection. So it's one thing to fall in love in the physical world. It's another thing to stay in love in the spiritual world and between somebody still here and then somebody there. So those bonds are unbreakable. Ruth, we are thinking of you. We feel deeply for you. And no doubt your daughter is going to be around you forever and meet you on your last day. But that would be a hard one to then ask yourself, why me? Why was I born to suffer this pain? And so I do respect why she needed to understand the depth of that dream that she had. That's how I would interpret it when she had the dream before her daughter was born, but she was pregnant with her. I feel like the daughter is, as you said, a twin flame, that she'll always be part of her, but also she was here to teach her something. She's here for a reason. Go to our next caller.
Okay.
Hi, Allison. This is Patricia. I live in Minnesota. I'm calling to ask you, when accidents happen, is it an accident or is it something that was pre-planned? It was the end game for what spiritual guides said, okay, guys, when do you want to go out and how do you want to go out? My son and 2 of his friends died in a horrific car accident. A person that was on drugs, huffing, was driving over 100 miles an hour on the wrong side of the road and hit the car my son was in and killed all 3 boys. So I'm just wondering, is that an accident or is that something that was pre-planned up there in heaven somewhere where all the spiritual guides got the boys and everybody together that was in this and said, okay, is this, are you guys ready? And I'm sure the 3 boys said, hey, let's go out with a big bang. Let's go out in a big giant car accident. Or is it just something that, I need life lessons. So this is to teach me things as it is to teach the driver that killed my boys, my son and the other 2, and the other mothers to learn different things in this life. That's my question. And by the way, thank you so much for doing what you do to help people get through things and make their lives better. What a beautiful thing that is to be of service to others. Thank you, Allison. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Patricia. That's very nice of her to think of me in the midst of everything that she's experienced. Thank you. So is it predestined? This is a big question that people have. Why do bad things happen to good people? Is there something I'm supposed to learn from it? Or are there just selfish people out there that do bad things and our kids are collateral damage? And she's living every parent's nightmare, by the way. Every time you leave, what do I make you do when you get home?
Text you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why mothers do that.
Yeah.
So the fact that all three boys died, and usually the person that's impaired survives. It's the big rub in this situation. And it incenses me. It seems like just incredibly unfair that would be the way things tend to work, is the person that caused the pain in the first place is here. But I guess that's justice in a sense, because they have to live with that pain the rest of their lives. And if people think it doesn't affect them, anybody that's got a little bit of humanity in them, it tears them apart for the rest of their lives. So one way or another, that person pays on some level. I'm sorry that all three boys died. And when Patricia said my boys, and then she corrected herself and she said the boys, they're your boys, Patricia. I get it. When you have a child and they've got good friends and you watch those kids grow up, you feel like they're yours too. So they're your boys. So is this predestined? That's a question that I believe, I have to believe that when young people die, that there's usually almost always a reason for it, aside from a baby's body not being able to carry the soul because the body was too weak. That's not necessarily predestined. Sometimes it's biology and their body just can't sustain them. So they have to come back, and they try to come back into the family in another baby's form. But with this situation and her sons, the mothers, I'm sure, could prevent another death, or at least bring awareness to this being a problem to try and stop somebody else from being killed. Every day, and we don't always see the person who saved your life, but somebody does something that stops a line of events from happening that could have taken us out at any time. And we don't know that one thing that person did prevented us from dying that day. So I find this interesting that we do have that kind of power over other people's lives. We can take their lives. We can also save their lives. And I believe that Patricia and the mothers of the sons of the kids have to find some way to make sure other mothers don't experience that, or a husband losing his wife, or keeping this guy in prison so that he can't do it to someone else. There's going to be a way forward. What are your thoughts on this?
So for me, it's interesting because it's so hard for me to believe that this was in their plan.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, I want to say accidents do happen because that's horrific. Like,
right.
Yes, it could spread awareness, but for what? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's her child.
Yeah.
That's unfair.
Right.
But it does remind me of the movie Adjustment Bureau.
Oh,
have you seen it?
I don't think so.
It's basically just a quick little synopsis. You all should watch it. It's really good. But no, it's essentially about there's people called the Adjustment Bureau, and they change little things in everybody's life throughout each day because they have a set plan that the big man upstairs set for them. So the main character in it, I think it's Matt Damon, but he falls in love with this girl, and then he loses the piece of paper with her number on it. And then he's like, oh, but then runs into her 3 years later and he's so happy. But then he, for whatever reason, wasn't stopped during the Adjustment Bureau time, and he witnessed everything. And then he was like, why can't I be with her? And they said, it's not in your plan. So we will do everything in our power for you guys to never see each other again. And so he keeps trying to find her and keeps trying to beat them to it and whatever. So no, it's a great movie, but it's basically everything happens for a reason. And there's people doing certain things because that's just what your plan was.
Right.
So maybe she should watch that. It might not give her the best insight of why this happened, but
helps you mentally check out.
It will help you mentally check out. It really will.
There was another movie like that. Sandra Bullock was in it, where I think he would write letters and they'd come up in the mailbox.
Oh, it was The Lake House?
Yeah, The Lake House. That was another one.
That's a great one,
if
too.
people are not entertained out there with the bad movies that keep coming out, try one of those. We'll have to watch the Adjustment Bureau tonight. So as far as the son dying, though, so you think it's easier for you to believe that it was just an accident, that some jerk just went out there, put himself first, did drugs, and 3 boys died.
That it was just wrong place at the wrong time.
So in my experience, and I've brought through a lot of people who say they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they'll put it that way. So if they're on the other side and they're saying wrong place, wrong time, does that mean they could have gotten out of it? Like, I don't know, because they never say that. They never take it farther than that. I've never really thought about that. But they'll say, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes, every now and then, they'll say there was a reason. Like that there was a reason for them dying. They had to die to keep somebody else alive. So sometimes, say a grandmother will die and she'll seem like a young grandmother. You're like, why did she have to go? But one of your children was going to be in a situation that they needed to be buffered spiritually, which means intervention from the other side. So the grandmother dies so she can push back the grandchild that's going to be put in a fatal situation. And then they survive it. It's why a lot of people speak of feeling like they got pushed back into their car when they should have been ejected from it. That's spiritual intervention. So her son may have died to save other people, either through the mother's and awareness, or to save his mother, to save his sister or brother, to save somebody, where his soul, before it came in here, they say, you're going to have a short ride. It's going to be a short life, but you're going to die young. You're going to end up saving these people as a result of it, because you alone are going to intervene for them. So I don't know everything, but I have seen that on the other side. So maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there's no definite answer.
We won't know for sure until we're completely over there.
We're over there.
We're not part of the club.
Yeah. Watch the movie though.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. But I can tell Patricia that her son no doubt has a heroic heart and will spend his energy on saving the people he loves and intervening for people throughout their lives until he has everybody living that he loves with him. Then his heaven will be complete. And then they pull their energy back. There's not as much of a reason for them to be here, because it's an emotional connection we have with the other side and they with us. So once those connections are all with them, other people have to step up that do have emotional connections here. So I just find it interesting how that works and how they can save our lives. So why don't we go to the next caller?
Good morning, Allison. I had the pleasure of meeting you in 2018, I believe it was, at your Scottsdale Mother's Day, Father's Day conference, and you were so kind to do a reading for me at the time. And since then, my niece and nephew have, my nephew married a beautiful woman named Caitlin, and they had a beautiful baby boy named Amos, and he was born on October 9th, 2023. And unfortunately, it passed on Thursday, October 12th. And as anyone can imagine, it has been a bit crippling for the family to take on this level of devastation, and fully understanding that love is grief in reverse, or however that expression goes. And I just didn't know if you would be willing to talk about this on your podcast, perhaps, because I'm guessing there are others out there that this, unfortunately, is relatable to at this particular time in our lives in America for some reason. So thank you for any consideration, Allison, and I hope you and your family are doing really wonderfully. And I love your family. I think you guys are beautiful, beautiful humans. And anyways, I'm rambling. Signing off, Auntie Lisa.
Thank you, Auntie Lisa. I love that. She was so sweet. So baby Amos died. So this is her great nephew, I believe. And it doesn't seem fair. And I have talked about this on this show before. Babies who pass find a way back into the family, which I had just touched on a little in the last question, that would be one of the conditions where it doesn't seem to be fated necessarily, but more biology, where the body can't sustain the soul. So the baby dies before its personality forms. And so that little soul is just waiting to come back in another stronger body, but they want to be in the same family. So sometimes it'll come back as your only child, or your sister could have a child that then carries the essence of your child that you lost, which is why often I'll have an aunt say to me, I feel like my niece or my nephew's like my daughter or my son, like we're just really close. And sometimes it's because that's the energy they carry. So I would say that to Lisa. I know the family's got to be in tremendous pain. Losing a baby just seems unnatural. Baby Amos will find a way back to the family, and it's just a matter of time. Did you have something to add?
Well, I agree. I think that he'll come back in a different body. But I feel like it's something that people don't talk about enough with losing a baby.
Yeah.
Like, you just went through 9 months of carrying that child, getting its room ready,
Yeah.
meeting it, and then having it taken from you.
Yeah.
And you just fantasize your life about like with this child
Right.
for all that time, and that's taken away. And I think, you know how they have you wait till the first trimester's over
To tell people. Right.
I don't agree, because they're essentially saying, well, you might have a miscarriage. It's like, okay, so now I'm alone having a miscarriage where no one knows what I'm going through.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I never really looked at it that way. That's interesting. Yeah. Should the mother
Like,
be alone in that
why
pain?
would you not tell people when you find out? Because
Right.
now if you lose that child, okay, now no one knows. And then explaining it to them, they wouldn't be prepared for that even.
I always feel really badly for women who miscarry or lose a child when they're pregnant, because people say the most stupid, terrible things to them, the most insensitive things, because they're not really thinking about how much what they're just about to say hurt. Like, well, at least you didn't get to know them. That would be harder. People say things like that. It's terrible.
Horrible.
Right. So, well, at least, count your blessings. You can have another one. They say things like that. So I feel for women. Women definitely should have more support going through the pregnancy. The hard part is when it is a stillborn or sudden infant death syndrome, or, babies die early on. People will say, oh, well, at least you can have another one. They'll say it to them too. But it's people, there's nobody there for them in their pain. And especially the mother who feels like she knows the personality of this baby, because you get a feeling for their personality and the baby's energy before they're ever born. You play games where they stick their foot out your side and you grab it, or, you're interacting with them. So the fact that they're born and aren't able to sustain themselves now that they're outside of the mother's body, the mother is obviously going to feel responsible, like it's her fault. So they go through all sorts of things. And then the dad feels helpless because he doesn't know what to say to his wife. And, and he's trying to be supportive, but then she just wants to push him away. Like, you see the dynamic go back and forth of them trying to heal. And having another baby doesn't erase the first one. That energy of that child always feels, and I find this interesting, so present to the parents. In reality, sometimes that baby's already come back in your next child, and the child that you're sort of neglecting while you're grieving this, the first one, they're sitting there going, hey, me, like, I made it. I'm here.
Well,
Don't be sad.
You have to think about it that way for, these people
Right.
with He'll come back.
Right.
He will come back.
Amos
But
will come back.
I don't know why today I am on like an entertainment movie thing, but that reminds me.
Well, you do grow up in an entertainment family, so I get it.
It reminds me of that show I've been watching, Virgin River, where the main character, she had a stillborn, and then she's, it's her life and stuff. So, I mean,
a lot.
she went through a ton. So I don't know if they want something to relate to, they can watch that. But I like the show.
Good show. So we got a thumbs up on Virgin River.
Yeah.
I'm sure there must be resources out there for women who lose a child early on, or
I think there is support groups.
So I'm sure there are support groups. So if you're a woman who's been through this and it's something you haven't quite processed because you shoved it down deep inside and let that part of you die, it's okay. Reach out. These are people that understand. It's so important to process grief.
Absolutely.
So, all right, well, let's go to the last question.
Hi, Allison and Joe. I know this is sort of unsolicited because you didn't ask for stories. I called last year. I was the one that had the story about the happy birthday balloon in the fence, and I've been debating whether or not I should share this, but it's just too much of a mic drop from my mom that it just makes it funny, and if anything, you guys will get a giggle out of it. My daughter Eve, who saw the hearts and everything, still does. She saved a butterfly in October that got too cold. It was a monarch butterfly. She brought it inside, which I wouldn't normally let her do, but I was just like, okay, I guess bring it in. And it wouldn't leave. So it was with us for 3 days, and it just happily flew around, and she could carry it around. I've never seen anything like it. On the third day, it warmed up, and she let it fly off. And while the butterfly was here, I was telling my husband, who can be a little more on the skeptical side, I think Grandma Kathy sent her to us. And he's kind of like, okay, well, yeah. Fast forward to my birthday, which is right before Halloween. He had ordered me a birthday cake from the Butterfly Bakery. I don't think he made that connection, but I was just telling the story about the butterfly to my aunt and uncle. They had just walked out the door, and my husband's face just drops, and I immediately thought, like, oh, what's wrong? And he shows me his phone, and it's a text from the Butterfly Bakery, and it has my mom's name because he had kept her number in his phone. So if that wasn't a mic drop for him, that like, yes, I'm here, Stephen. This is a sign for Amy for her birthday. I don't know what it is. And then also I connected later that I also have Secrets of the Monarch yearbook. So I just feel like that was a huge sign from her, and she's trying to convince him that she is still here. And I think he's starting to be a believer. So anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful holiday, and goodbye.
I think that her mom smacked her son-in-law in the back of the head with that one. I love it. She wasn't subtle about it at all. I love it.
Well, a lot of people who are skeptical believe, they're just, it's
they explain it away.
No, well, yeah, they think that the person's making it up or making these connections to like
that is what they want to hear.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, it must be that, you
right.
know? But that's good.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
No, skeptics don't believe until it happens to them specifically. Yeah. It could happen to anyone around them and they'll explain it away. But then when it happens to them, they become the biggest believers.
Yeah.
So the most hardcore believers are former skeptics, really. So I love it.
I love that story.
Well, thank you, Amy, for calling in with that story because we needed something uplifting like butterflies.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful butterflies. So with that said, thank you for being here. And this is my reintroduction to you for my audience. And I'm looking forward to taking in those relationship questions with you. And I like having your perspective on these because Dad's got very academic, pragmatic, but soulful answers to how he interprets some of the call-ins. You're very much very soulful. Like you really take it all in. So I like having both of your perspectives. I'm very lucky.
No, I'm really excited for this. Everyone, please send in your relationship stuff because I want to hear.
Yes, we'll be your dear Abbeys of sorts, and you can You can tell us your problems, and we're not just going to listen. We're going to give you avenues out of your problems. We want to help you get through them. It's always amazing to me when I do a half-hour reading for someone and I simplify their life. I break it down. I'm like, oh, well, you just need to do this, this, and that, and your life's reshuffled in a better place. And they feel so much better at the end. And that's really what I want to do here with the show and help people move forward in their lives that feel stuck.
Totally.
So where can people find you on social media?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, I am a photographer. If you want to check out my Instagram page, it is at Sophia DuBois Photo.
And you specialize in couples, especially surprise engagements, which I love.
Yes. And I've done blind date photo shoots. So if you're in Scottsdale and you want me to set you up with someone for your first date being a photo shoot with me, send it my way.
I love that. Okay, Sophia. Well, thanks for coming in and sharing your perspective. And thank you to my listeners for listening to The Dead Life. Tune in next Tuesday for a fresh episode of The Dead Life. I'm Allison DuBois. This is The Dead Life. And to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.
Join us next week on The Dead Life. And don't forget to subscribe now to get every episode sent straight to your phone.